Hello everyone, welcome back. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Question for you. Did Mark Carney just drop an F35 bombshell hidden in his speech that he just gave to a group of university students in Ottawa yesterday? He gave what many people are calling a pre-budget speech to get his point of view out on the table. Mainly, I think, because he is planning on being out of the country starting this weekend for 10 days. And I think he wanted to capture the narrative now and kind of give us a preview instead of just letting rumors and speculation swirl in his absence before the budget that's going to be released on November 4th. Now, I'm going to play you a few portions of the speech and then make some comments, but not to bury the lead here. Let me jump right to the point in the speech where he mentions what I think could be the hidden bomb. Has Canada made the decision of dumping the F-35 and going with the Swedish Gripen? Remember, the company that's offering the Gripen is offered to build those in Canada. Remember, when a politician gives a speech like this, it's carefully written word for word, and it's read off a teleprompter in many cases. And so the message is clear. He's not just making comments off the cuff. Let me play you this clip to start.
The new security threats the world is bringing to our shores means we're making the biggest investments in our military in generations. But up until now, more than 70 cents of every dollar of military spending, military capital expending by our government goes to the United States. With our new Defense Investment Agency, we will make sure we build more of our security and defense capabilities here at home, creating new careers in aerospace and shipbuilding and cyber and AI for Canadian engineers, technicians, and scientists.
In that short portion of the speech, he mentions that in the past, 70 cents out of the dollar that we spent on military went to the United States, and that's going to change, and we're going to spend more of that money in Canada to create jobs. And the first thing he said was aerospace. Is that a specific reference to the way the government's leaning on deciding whether we dump the F-35 and switch to the Gripen? What are your comments? Leave them in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Or is it just put in there knowing that Americans are probably listening to this speech, and maybe that is being used as a negotiating tool because, of course, Canada and the United States are right now negotiating a deal that could involve reducing tariffs on steel and aluminum in exchange for Canada reviving the Keystone XL pipeline. And I mentioned that the reason he did this speech was to put his position out there, kind of as an introduction, so that the narrative is not clouded while he's gone. And I think he gave a little shot to Pierre Poilievre when he said this.
Our public square is fragmented by online echo chambers, where truth and fiction can be hard to tell apart, and where contrasting ideas tend to polarize, not persuade.
He made that comment as part of his introductory remarks. And then he said this, which I'll translate for you right away before you hear it. Get ready for some major spending.
Our government has the fiscal capacity to act decisively. We used to take big, bold risks in this country. It is time to swing for the fences again. We learned a little lesson about swinging for the fences a couple nights ago, as I recall. And this is what the upcoming budget will be about. Building, taking control, and winning. We will make generational investments.
And in case I wasn't clear already, that translates into a lot of government spending. Generational level investments. More spending than you've seen in generations. And then he goes on to talk about where some of that investment might be necessary, and he makes a promise about nation-building projects.
In August, we opened the Major Projects Office, which serves as a single point of contact to get those nation-building projects built faster. And the thing is, we are just getting started. Our next tranche of nation-building projects will be announced by the Grey Cup. After the World Series, but by the Grey Cup. And at the core of our strategy will be to catalyze unprecedented investments in Canada over the next 5 years. That's what's going to come above and beyond these projects.
A commitment that by Grey Cup, there will be a second set of nation-building projects added to our list. Is Danielle Smith listening? Maybe a pipeline? You have to have some fun making these videos. And I guarantee Daniel Smith was listening. Then he goes on to talk seriously about Buy Canada. And I've been saying this a lot. I choose Canada. That's the slogan for my channel. And he articulates a Buy Canada strategy.
It's the same thing in steel. Consider that while 80% of the steel that Europe buys is manufactured in Europe, 75% of the steel that the US buys is manufactured in the US. Only 40% of the steel that we use is made here. That doesn't make sense. Not when we have the people, the resources, and the companies to build right here in Canada. So our upcoming budget will move forward with our Buy Canadian policy, prioritizing Canadian steel, aluminum, lumber, manufactured good, and technology for Canadian projects.
And the Buy Canada strategy that he's talking about could mean a huge amount of spending within our own country. He's changed the procurement rules so that the federal government must choose Canadian businesses and use Canadian products in anything that the federal government spends on. And if some of these large nation building projects move ahead, they could require tremendous amount of resources of steel and aluminum and lumber and all the things that we have in abundance here that we should be buying from ourselves rather than importing from somewhere else. Then he sets what his goal is for Canada.
Our goal for Canada is to double our non-US exports over the course of the next decade, generating more than $300 billion more in trade. And that's new orders for Canadian resources, technologies, and expertise.
And this is one thing that I've been talking about a lot on this channel, which is something that we just have to do. Diversify, diversify, diversify. Maintain our relation with the United States, because we have to realize that 70 to 80% of our trade is with the United States. Work on that and be respectful of that and keep that going as best we can, even with the adversity that Donald Trump is injecting into that relationship. And focus our efforts going forward into diversified markets and grow our exports to everyone else but the United States. Let's see our non-US trade really increase. We won't be so exposed in the future. He then talked about that it's not all about spending and investing, but we have to be frugal with the scarce resources we have. And we have to see reality, and he made these comments.
The fact is that federal spending has been growing over the course of the last decade by more than 7% year over year. We've been spending faster than our economy was growing. So we have to change that, and our government is changing that. We will have to do less of some of the things that we want to do so we can do more of what we must do to build a bigger and better Canada.
So the question obviously is, what are those things that we want to do that we have to do less of so that we can do the things that we have to do? And he did not mention specifics in this speech. I guess we'll learn more about that on November 4th when the official budget is released. And then he spent a little time doing something that I really like about Mark Carney, of telling you things like they are, of explaining the situation and not just engaging in over-inflammatory rhetoric, but kind of looking you in the eye and saying, this is where we're at and this is where we're going. So let's listen to this clip.
We need to be clear-eyed about where we stand today so we can build for tomorrow. Let me give the current economic context. I'm channeling my old central banker days here. Look, the situation in Canada now, the actual situation, is that the rate of inflation has come down. It's come down sharply. But it's also the case that the cost of living is still far too high. It's also the situation in Canada right now that we're building a lot more homes. Housing starts are up this year. And affordability of those houses are improving. But it's still challenging. We need to build many, many more homes, and we need to build them a lot faster. This government is getting immigration under control, with asylum claims down by a third and new temporary foreign workers down by more than 70% this year. To match immigration levels with our needs and our capacity to welcome them, this budget will include Canada's new immigration plan to do better for newcomers and for everyone. And it is a fact that we are forecast to be the second fastest growing economy in the G7 over the course of the next 2 years. Even though some critical sectors, I mentioned earlier, autos, steel, lumber, forest products, aluminum, and some regions are facing big pressures. So the facts are that at present, despite everything, despite these big changes, our economy is holding up. But it's equally true that if we don't act now, these pressures will only grow.
I'm cautiously optimistic about the prospects of our economy. It's holding up as well as it can under the situation, but we have a lot of tough choices ahead, and we have to choose where we spend our scarce resources so they have the biggest impact. But make no mistake, we have to act. We have to have a stimulus budget right now. And then he concludes by making this promise to Canadians.
I want to make this promise to Canadians. I will always be straight about the challenges that we face and the choices that we must make. And to be clear, we won't transform our economy easily or in a few months. It will take some sacrifices, and it will take some time. Our government will work relentlessly to cut waste and drive efficiencies. And when we have to make difficult choices, we will be thoughtful, we'll be transparent, we'll be fair. We will work collaboratively with our colleagues across the aisle to build, protect, and empower Canadians. We won't play games. We won't waste time. And we won't hold back. We will do what it takes. We will play to win. We will bet on Canada and all Canadians.
So that's a pretty good way to end the speech. He touched on just about everything. I left a lot of things out, and I'll leave the link for the full speech that was on CBC. I used their site to show you the video here. He hit on quite a few more topics that I didn't cover here. The one that I found the most interesting was that reference to the aerospace jobs and spending more money within Canada. I think is very linked to the review of this F35 deal, maybe dropping the F35's deals with the United States. Let me know what you think about that in the comment section. Of course, we won't know all the details of the budget until November 4th. My prediction is that the budget will show a very, very large deficit because things that we already know is that the government has decreased taxes, and whenever there's a tax cut, they budget for less revenue coming in. They're probably also budgeting for not stellar economic growth and also a lot of spending commitments. So if I had to guess, the deficit in this upcoming budget will be bigger than the previous one, which I think was in the 60 billion or so. So I would look for a number, I'm going to throw my guess out there, probably somewhere between 75 and 85 billion dollars as our deficit. That's going to be my guess. Of course, the opposition parties are already staking out their territory, and Mr. Poilievre has already coined a letter saying, well, as long as Mark Carney sticks to a budget under 42 billion, then we can support it. And he's chosen a number ridiculously low, something that's not possible to even achieve. Everyone knows that we could never get to a $42 billion deficit in this particular budget. So, of course, Poilievre has chosen that number, and I can already tell you that right after the budget, he'll say, well, Mark Carney didn't reach the goal of a $42 billion deficit. His spending is out of control, and the Liberals have no idea what they're doing. That will be his position. I guess that's a strategy. But I hope that the opposition parties work with the government to get the budget passed. Now, the situation is the budget will be presented on November 4th by the government. The government is in a minority situation. There has to be a vote on the budget. If they don't get the budget passed, then we trigger an election. And I don't think from Pierre Poilievre choosing that 42 billion hurdle, I hold him to 42 billion. It's obviously going to be higher than 42 billion. I can't see the Conservatives voting with the government on this budget, which leaves, 4 NDP members, Elizabeth May, and the Bloc. Now, the Bloc probably will not vote with the government unless they get concessions, because that's just what the Bloc does. And then that leaves, I guess, Elizabeth May and 4 NDP members. Someone has to vote with the government for it to pass. What do you think? Is the budget going to pass, or are we going to be thrown into an election? That's a possibility. I say there's a 99% chance that the budget passes, and it might be as simple as 5 or 6 Conservative members not showing up. They may just not show up in the House of Commons. They'll vote against the budget as a matter of principle, but they won't have enough votes to defeat the budget because they'll strategically leave 5 or 6 people. They'll tell them to stay home. That type of thing happens. That's what I think will happen. I'm interested in your feedback in the comment section. Leave your comments. Subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying my content. And if you want to support this channel on a monthly basis, consider becoming a channel member. I would appreciate that. Have a fantastic rest of your day, everyone. And I'll catch you all on the next one.